Hi friends! As you can see, we are covering Sonia H's Had to Do It, newest Hinoki set that released this past Tuesday. They arrived today, therefore will be a first impressions. I bought these from Beautylish on Tuesday, and yes, sometimes Beautylish and Sonia will send me brushes in advance because these are limited edition. They probably didn't have enough to send for PR, which is totally fine. I'm always willing to support Sonia, and these, without a doubt, are just exquisite. If you don't know Sonia, Sonia is the maker of Sonia G brushes. She first came out with her fundamental set, and then with her Face Pro, Eye Pro, Sky set, and other sets in between, like her mini Hinoki set, which is fantastic, her limited edition Lotus set, as well as her Fusion set, which was by far my most favorite set for 2021. Okay, and before Sonia started to create her own brushes, she had collected Fude. Fude is brush in Japanese, and Sonia's collection is just breathtaking. I haven't seen it in person, but the way she describes brushes on her blog, sweetmakeuptemptations.com, which I would recommend you have a look at. I'll post the blog post down below describing her Hinoki brushes, because the way Sonia describes brushes is unlike any other. The feel and experience jumps from the words, and you are there with her in experiencing how this brush can feel, how the brush can apply makeup depending on its shape and design. Sonia really takes you through just every step of the way of that experience just by reading alone. So I would recommend you take a look at the blog post. But to briefly go over this set, it retails for $120, and you're thinking, wow, that's very expensive for two brushes. But no, these are highly crafted handmade brushes with a highly prized Japanese wood. So I had pulled up her blog here, specifically a traditional wood native to Japan, Japanese cypress, traditionally referred to as hinoki. It is and has been used as building material for shrines and temples. For example, the Horyuji Temple, which is very well known as one of the oldest wooden structures of Japan, and is very lightweight, so it's nice to have a high quality wood that's not heavy and feels good in the hands. And you have the ferrules here, and Sonia writes to make these handles a little bit more special. The silhouette of two little cranes flying is illustrated on each handle. Sonia is a huge lover of cranes, that's why I made sure I wore my crane earring on this side. Cranes symbolize beauty, harmony, and grace, and are also considered a symbol of happiness and eternal youth. For the ferrules, because this is one of the most beautiful elements of the Hinoki set, it says here that the ferrule's slightly curvy and wavy design is inspired by little segments of the outlines that we can observe on the crane's wings. This design adds a little plus in terms of functionality and makes the brushes a little bit more unique and dynamic. We have Saikoho Goat, high grade Saikoho, very, very silky. I washed these brushes and you see that it flared out a little bit from how it looks on the page. So beautifully silky. I mean, this is good Saikoho Goat hair. Undyed, so I think you could use these with liquid and creams technically, but I did not read all the way through. I'll confirm when I encounter that point. And to match the color of the crane illustrations, the ferrules are in this beautiful matte black finish. Here we have the big arched brush. This Hinoki brush is quite dense, but the arched shape of the ferrule opens the bristles to the sides. It adds airiness to the brush and provides a more calculated movement, a smoother continuity. For example, it doesn't flick when changing direction. It adapts easily to the face structure as it moves, and the strength of the bristles is balanced and even. A beautiful ferrule design. I love the pinch here and how it arches up, or rather points up. It looks like the Niji Pro, right? This is what I thought of when I saw the Hinoki brush. It has a similar ferrule design, but just from the feel alone, these brushes have a different experience. The Niji is more dense, more direct. The Hinoki brush, a lot more airy, but I think that's what's so beautiful about the design. Even though it looks dense at first glance, it's actually quite flexible. Directional if you want it, precise if you want that application of bronzer or contour to the hollows, but it has nice movement, flexibility, and splay if you wanted a more airy application of blush. So, as well as loose or pressed powder application, I think a great multi-purpose brush. It's not too small, but not too big either. You can apply your loose or pressed powder quickly, especially under the eyes, around the nose, down the jawline, around the brows too, because again, since it is pinched on both sides, it has that movement, that flow, very versatile in terms of how you can use it on your face. Whereas the Niji, a lot more directional, a lot bigger. I feel this brush is optimal for hard to pick up textures like those gelée bronze textures that I have a video showing. If you want to take a look at how the Niji Pro looks in action, I'll make sure to link it up in the card or down below in the description box. The smaller brush in this Hinoki set has a round ferrule. Round, wavy, and slanted. The shape of the bristles is slightly curvy, a bit like a fingertip. The raised side of the slanted ferrule provides support to the longer bristles so that the longer bristles don't easily bend back but still have some resistance and strength to them. I thought about my Tanseido brush when I saw the small Hinoki brush because they have a similar look and feel to them with that slant, and I actually use my Tanseido brush for several tasks, but you could just see here from afar that the ferrule, because it's bigger, this one is smaller, so there's a little more compactness to the bristles. There's a lot of flexibility here and many tasks you can cover. Let's see. Sonia says we can use this brush with blush, contour, highlight, or powder, and the technique varies with the product and your own preference. We can do the placement in one way but continue with different technique for diffusing and blending. I love these brush designs for highlight because you get the highlight on the surface of the brush, but because of the slant, it blends it well, and the size doesn't allow the highlight to go haywire. It remains on the portion you initially applied it on, and again will buff in the texture that will leave behind a beautiful sheen. Great for contour. And again, the splay is going to buff the edges well so they don't look as sharp. There is nothing in my collection, Sonia writes, similar to this little Hinoki. I could see that. The Lotus detail, I think, is a more literal cheek brush, whereas the Hinoki, there's a little more fluidity in terms of its design and therefore its role. If you have very pigmented blushes, this little brush will be fun to use. It feels artistic and stylish. I agree. If you're afraid of using contour, this is also a nice brush to use because it applies the contour softly and is diffused. I could definitely detect that because of the slant. For powder under the eyes, most definitely. We're gonna get into the demos, don't you worry. Here it is, maintenance and care. These brushes could technically be paired with cream products, but it is not recommended. The pressure required for effectively blending cream products would put excessive stress on these fine silky bristles. It would weaken the bristles on the longer term and cause breakage. Also, cream products require that we wash our brushes more frequently, and since these are more special and delicate, it will be more appropriate to reserve their usage to only powders. Just wipe them gently on a microfiber cloth in between uses, and this will very much extend their lifespan, and they also won't need a wash as frequently. Good to know. So with all those details out the way, it's time to get in a little closer. That's enough. Let's start with the little Hinoki brush. I'll apply Linda's blotting powder, which I've been using a lot to set my concealer, whether it's the LYS or the Say. And the flow, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I think this ferrule just allows for a flexible application, right? Despite the number of bristles in the brush and the fact that it's slanted, it still has beautiful control, and the way the angle trails under the eyes, fantastic. Because to have a brush like this, as opposed to, let's say, where is it? I had the Designer Pro on standby, which I also love as a... I can't find it because I used the Designer Pro earlier to apply the blotting powder. This is a little more direct. I find this is great for tapping versus sweeping. This is a sweeper. Fits beautifully well between my brows, along the arches, wherever you want to place a little more powder. And of course, I would argue this is fantastic for not only applying a little more powder on larger areas of your face, but for finishing. Can't use this with my Danessa bombs, so we have to find something else. I'll be right back. I have my LYS No Limits Matte Bronzer. This is in Harmony. Tapping a little bit here. This is ridiculous. I adore just how easy this brush fits into the hollows of my cheeks. It's unfair. I don't know if I can use this with the Suku Melting Powder Blush formula. I probably can because it's not an actual cream product, just a more emollient one than an actual cream product. But that's lovely. Let's go to the bigger Hinoki brush. I'll also use this bronzer, but I can see why this will deliver just a larger dose of coloring. It won't be as precise as the little Hinoki brush, but great if you rather use a bigger brush for bronzer anyway, but not so big that the color gets away from you. I think because of the brush's design, you have it flat on both sides, that you can get bronzer here right on one edge and then use that to flick the color up if you like. I'm playing it safe and dipping into an actual powder. This is in 128. I believe this released during the autumn winter collection 2021, using my small Hinoki brush. Oh, and this is just perfect for blush. The swirl and twirl, the flat surface where you get the color perfectly onto the apples of your cheeks. But the buff around, and again, the fact that this is still a small brush, keeps the color where you need it, doesn't leave that region. This is silly. And just for funsies, I'll use the bigger Hinoki brush. I'll have this color here, but that's also fantastic for blush. As you can see, I'm relying on a different application method. This is more of a strike away versus with the little Hinoki brush, I was swirling and twirling, which I do love to rely on technique-wise for blush application. I'm partial to that for sure. But because of the brush's size here, for the large Hinoki one, this is incredibly simple and easy to apply blush with, because some people love to do this with blush as well. They love this flicking manner of application where it's just very airy and light in terms of the finish. This color is 127. This is more like the creamsicle shade. This is pretty. Now, I will use the melting powder highlighter. It's not a traditional cream, yes, but I will apply a little, just a little bit, definitely with the Hinoki little brush. Outstanding. I can't ask for anything better. This is ridiculous. I love the ease of this brush. Perfect for highlight. In fact, I've been gravitating towards these size brushes for highlight application. I don't know why. I think it's because I've enjoyed wearing highlighter lower on my cheeks. And to have a brush this size, I think optimal for that placement. And if you needed bigger brush to apply more of your pressed or loose powder, or if you wanted to give it a buff around, you can. I'm looking at all my Sonia G brushes right now because I need to have context, and if you also have a number of Sonia G brushes and are wondering if you need this, I think the large Hinoki is a lot more versatile than her fan brushes. Her fan brushes, you can achieve similar feel and application, but the fact that the Hinoki brush has a little more density, but the perfect amount of fluidity and movement on the skin that I feel the fan brushes are too precise in design to achieve. The fan brushes for me are more for like general, bigger, larger region application, whereas the Hinoki brush sits in the middle of that spectrum, especially if you compare it to the Niji Pro. The Niji Pro I definitely can use for any of the tasks here, but using them at the same time, this just has a lot more density. Again, more ideal in my opinion for harder to pick up textures, like the gelée textures that don't seem to want to get on your face. But this, because of how much bristle this brush has, it's going to pick up the color and slap it on your cheeks. And the little Hinoki brush, I can't get over its versatility. It's the perfect size for under eye, bronzer, contour, highlighter, blush, the go around and the swirl and twirl. But again, how Sonia described it, the reason why we have this ferrule is to keep these bristles in check so they don't run away from you. They stay on the face, there's not too much splay, and to have the number of bristles in contact with your skin while going through the various techniques, I think is important, and that's why it makes it such a fantastic brush. And I think the finish goes without saying. Here are close-ups so you can just take a look at how the products apply. I'm sure you've seen with all my Sonia G brushes that the application is absolutely flawless. I think using a brush with uncut bristles and with the level of craftsmanship required to produce these brushes just leaves behind the most beautiful silky finish in a way that your makeup won't muddy up. Like you can't mess it up. You will have to go through extreme means to use this brush with a texture that you cannot use it with, that's not appropriate with, to get messy. That's what you will have to do. But if you use it with powders, any type of powder, it's going to leave behind a seamless finish that looks skin-like, that does not appear made up, artificial, sitting on the skin. The brushes just help the makeup fuse with your skin. That is almost that. I can't speak. I'm so happy. Yes, it's expensive, but if you collect brushes, then of course you won't use these. They will be on display. But if you do use them, my goodness, I will take these along with me to Bay's house just so I can dive deeper into their glory and just know that the application of my makeup, it's going to be ethereal. Without a doubt. So that is it, fam. My first impressions using the Hinoki set. Again, I know this is just diving into the first time, but I've been using Sonia G brushes for a very long time. And yes, there are some that are better for other tasks than others. Even Sonia knows that herself. These are fantastic. My goodness. Who knows if Sonia will release a Hinoki eye set. Maybe she'll use more brushes with the higher grade Psycho goat hair, or perhaps will design brushes with this type of a wavy slanted ferrule. Without a doubt, an amazing makeup application. And while I understand that the application is limited to powder products only, that's fine. I don't mind that at all. I have my fusion set to use with creams and liquids if I need it. So I have the tools to cover all the tasks, to use with all the mediums. Totally fine. Taking these with me to Bay's house, I'll make sure they are secured well. I have to remove some brushes here that I have in my away travel bag. And what I like to do is place the microfiber towel between the brushes and the makeup compartment, just to make sure they don't get too squished. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them to get squished. I think that's it, fam. Let me know down below if you decided to pick up the Hinoki set. I'm not entirely sure if at this point of filming it sold out, but if you were wondering about it, or maybe you bought the brushes and it's your first Sonia G purchase and you were unsure on how to use it, well, hopefully this video provided some guidance. But again, I would highly suggest you read Sonia's blog post on her Hinoki set, as well as her Instagram post. Sonia again beautifully describes her creations and just leads you into this vision of not only design but a flawless application, what to expect, why she designed the brushes as she did, and therefore you having a better understanding for her creations. I'll see you down in the comments, fam, and until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Sonia G brush extravaganza, monthly favorites, or vlog. Take care, and I will see you again soon.